Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Praetor Magic. My name is DM Cross, and this is Reflections of the Council, our live podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, listening on Libsyn or Spotify, it's not live for you, but it is live right now while we are streaming this on twitch.tv/PraetorMagic, where you can follow us and join us every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm joined, as always, by the rest of the council, Frexing Walker. He's hidden, so he's on the screen, but he's not on the screen. He could be anywhere. He could even be behind you right now. Hey, Frexing.
Howdy, how you doing?
And then, of course, Magical Hacker, the only person who thinks Mono White is actually worth playing. Hey, Hacker, how you doing?
I guess I'm here and I'm representing Mono White. I guess.
I mean, if you're gonna play it, I'm gonna pick on you for making bad decisions. But more importantly, and last but definitely not least, we have a special guest tonight, Michelle Rapp. We are very excited to have you. Michelle is a huge Vorthos person in Twitter MTG. And you also have your own podcast, which is I'm going to say it wrong, and I already apologize, but the Lorgoyce?
Yeah, the Lorgoyce is actually absolutely correct. I'm so sorry, my cat is like nuzzling my camera. Okay, there we go. Yes, no, absolutely correct, Mike. I have a comedy Vorthos podcast called the Lorgoyce. Oh, Kitty, why are you doing this to me?
It's okay.
You're so cute. So many whiskers.
This is the fun of having a live podcast, is that we can't script or edit these things out. So we just kind of have to run with it. Yeah,
no, this is just my life now. My life is just my cats, like, invading our chat. But yeah, no, I run, so I'm a co-host of Lorgoyce with Justin, Bob, and AE, and we try to get an episode every week, basically just recapping a lot of the magic story as it's happening, and during times when there isn't magic story, we talk about lots of other aspects of Vorthos and magic lore, including, color pie theories. We're actually doing a D&D campaign soon, based off of the Ravnican D&D manual, which is going to be super cool. I'm really excited. I'm DMing it. It'll be exciting. I'm super stoked.
I've gone to the bookstore like 3 times just to hold the book in my hand and then like look through it a few times.
You should get it.
I can't because Christmas is coming up and I know that could be a gift idea.
That's fair.
I keep like holding it. I'm like, if nobody gives you to me for Christmas, I will be back for you. I promise. I promise.
I'll come back for you.
We'll be together, I swear. So, of course, it's ironic that you mentioned how you guys talk about lore and story and everything on the Lorgoyce, because that's actually what we want to pick your brain about. Obviously, we said at the beginning, you're huge into Vorthos, you're huge into the story, not just the story itself, but also the writing of it, and even from what I've seen of what you put out on Twitter, like the quality of it, right? Like you want a good quality story, you want good quality characters, and I think that's something anybody who's interested in that part of the game should be concerned with, even though sometimes we don't get it, which I'm sure we'll talk about as we go on. But we just want to kind of pick your brain and hear what you have to say about in the past, current, etc. We were talking before the recording started that you had read the Sanderson novella. So I meant to get to it, but I did not have time this weekend because I wanted to be able to like actually talk with you about it and give my thoughts, but like I said, I couldn't. So if you want to kind of give me your thoughts on it and how it went. I know you said you were a pretty big fan of Sanderson, so.
Yeah, so I know I've well, let me just back things up a little bit. So before I got into Magic the Gathering, I was a huge, and continue to be a huge science fiction, fantasy genre, fiction, I guess devourer of fiction, whatever, a reader, I suppose. And of course, Sanderson is just one of the masters of fantasy today. Like, he has written a good body of work, including the Mistborn series, and like the Rules of Law and that sort of thing. And he also has done a series of young adult novels as well, and was chosen by Robert Jordan to finish his Wheel of Time series. And we were joking earlier about whether or not he'd actually then be tapped in to like help finish the Game of Thrones, like Song of Ice and Fire series, because George R. R. Martin might die.
Somebody has to finish all these series.
Someone has to do it. And Sanderson's really good, so it's fine. So I had met him a couple of times in the past. I live in San Francisco, and one of my favorite bookstore in the city is Borderlands Books, and they are they exclusively carry science fiction, fantasy, and horror and mystery. So they often have author signings. And when Brandon was first starting out a few years ago, this was one of his first pit stops where he got to actually meet people and sign whatnot. So the cafe and the bookstore has always had a soft spot in his heart. I've had the chance to chat with him a little bit. He's a really, really nice person, really creative, super like devoted to his fans. He'll stay until like 3 a.m. signing books.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a really nice person. So and I also knew that he was into Magic the Gathering. He's not the only prolific fantasy author to be into Magic the Gathering. No, Max Gladstone is as well. But we've known for a while that we were going back to Ravnica. And given how great of a job that he did with Mistborn and other books where he set magic systems within an urban setting, I thought that Ravnica would be a really good fit for him. And so I was thinking to myself, oh, since they're actually like outsourcing a lot of their writing nowadays, Brandon Sanderson would be a perfect fit for Ravnica. And then when I found out he was doing a novella, I was thinking, oh, okay, this is exciting. Novellas are a relatively new thing within the genre fiction world.
You can say they're pretty novel.
All right. No. Oh, God.
I'm sorry, I had to, right? They are. Okay, sorry for the interruption.
We can mute him.
We can
so
fire him right now if you want us to. We will. We'll do it.
It's unnecessary.
It won't be the first time.
Yeah, right.
It certainly won't be the last either.
I haven't fired Hacker today. Oh, I guess we know where this is going.
You're keeping track? Well, that at least makes one of us.
So yeah, so anyway, yeah, so I found out how I was doing, and that's become more fashionable nowadays, which is really cool. I think they just started creating a new award category for it, for like the Hugo's Nebulous, which is really exciting. So basically, when I saw that he had chosen this character, I didn't know anything about this character. I just saw the picture and I was like, that man looks like Xanatos from Gargoyles. Like, he just looks like the sleaziest scumbag of the multiverse. Like, this is a man who walks into bars and tries to pick up women with sleight of hand tricks. Like, he looks incredibly smarmy. And then the mask thing, it just looked very emo. So I was not super excited at first about this novella, because I was like, oh no, it's another dude who looks
smarmy,
creepy.
yeah.
Yeah, he looks smarmy. And I was incredibly pleasantly surprised, actually. So the setting of the book is in Innistrad. I don't know if a lot of folks know about it. It's like very mild spoilers, but the planeswalker on the cover, his name is Davriel Kane, which is not his real name. And he also has a cane with a sword in it. Because of course,
yeah, I mean,
of course, if you have a cane in the multiverse, it has to contain a sword.
It's got to be something other than just the cane.
Right.
And I actually ended up really loving this character because he's such a dandy. He's so lazy. He's like, I will come and save your village because they are the supplier of my favorite tea, and now they're gone. And where am I going with this tea? Like.
Great reason, buddy.
Sometimes you have to defend your favorite beverage. I mean,
hey, some people want to save the multiverse. Some people want their damn tea. All right, everybody's got their motivation.
I mean, if the reason why you are defeating a greater evil is because your favorite tea maker has gotten murdered, I mean, that's fair. If that's your reason for dispensing justice, the ends kind of justify the means, so it works out pretty well. I can't really argue with that. But yeah, no, it's a great little book thing. It takes maybe a couple of hours to read. It's a delight. Very different than Sanderson's usual fare. Sanderson tends to be a little bit more dour and like descriptive. And it's not that he isn't funny or anything like that, but I wouldn't necessarily associate him with being lighthearted and witty with all the banter and whatnot. It actually reminded me quite a bit of Gail Carriger's books. She is the cat just jumped on me. Hello. But yeah, her series are all about like Austen-esque like banter, except you're also killing zombies. So it's a little bit like Pride and Prejudice and zombies and vampires and werewolves. Okay. And this was very similar to what I was seeing with this particular book. Sorry, I'm like, go away, kitty. Go away. Hi.
I just want to be loved.
She really wants love right now, and I'm like, no, this heart is empty.
Oh, wow.
It'll be full like in about an hour and a half whenever we finish. But right now, I'm like,
okay.
Mom's got work to do, love. Like,
okay, go.
But anyway, yeah, I really recommend it. Really compelling novel, really lovely characters, an absolute delight to read. Mm-hmm. Not really as heavy as one would expect for something set on Innistrad, but
right.
Yeah, and it's also because it's set in Innistrad after the events of Shadows over Innistrad, so it's actually nice to see how people have managed to cope after everything happened. Yeah,
that's cool.
Life just goes on.
So since we're talking about story just in general, it always bugged me how the Innistrad story ended, and then there was like a couple months break, and then we find out that everybody's back basically at Jace's like house on Ravnica or something right before Kaladesh, where Dalvin Band comes in and is like, hey, we need your help, please come with us.
Mm-hmm.
Why the Gatewatch, right? These are our like special forces of planeswalkers going and trying to save the multiverse from all this bad stuff. They banded together. They're our hardcore hero unit. Why was there no humanitarian effort after what like all nearly apocalyptic stuff happened on Innistrad, and they just kind of went home and chilled for a few months with nothing to do?
I don't think
worst heroes ever.
They realize that the people of Innistrad, they're the like sturdiest people. You can throw anything at them, they'll find a way to recover. So they just wanted to get out of their way and let them do it, because if they tried to do it themselves, they would just mess everything up. And that's the last thing they want, is a botched recovery.
Has Soren recovered?
Who cares about Soren?
Excuse me.
Listen, he's not white. Wait, is he white? He is.
Yeah, he's white black.
Yeah, I care about Soren now. I care about Soren.
You care about him at least half the time when you're playing the bad half. But you know what I mean? Like, those kind of things always get me in this mentality of Magic. And I get, like, we have to move on to the next set and everything. But, like, they had filler in between sets. Even if it wasn't, like, a huge deal storyline, just, like, little one-off side quest things of, like, what did Chandra do to help out? How did Liliana maybe do some kind of zombie cleanup where maybe she just got the zombies away from the towns? Like, she, could do whatever she wanted because she's Liliana and probably do something slightly sinister / questionable. But it would have been interesting to see what they do after the fact.
Yeah, but you're asking the Gatewatch as superheroes to clean up their mess. But think about like DC or Marvel and those superheroes. Do they really clean up their messes? Like,
Bruce
that's
Wayne
why we have
most of the cleaning from everything. It's actually like a fun fact that you can, if you like really dig into it, Bruce Wayne actually funds most of the cleanup from most of the apocalyptic things that happen around Gotham.
Well, good for Bruce Wayne. He might be the only one.
Well, this is
like,
why.
Hey, let me go back to my beach house, and Superman's like, "Oh, I gotta go to the Fortress of Solitude for a few years."
He's gotta go back to work. He's a reporter.
Hold on as I fly to Krypton. I mean, it's not like they stick around and are like cleaning up the messes and cleaning up the trash. Why do our magic heroes have to?
How could he fly back to Krypton? It's been blown up.
Do you want to have the magic version of Sokovia Accords? Because that's the real question that we're gonna have here. Sokovia Accords are going to happen in the multiverse.
So Sokovia Accords happened because nobody ever cleaned up.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying, though, because nobody.
I'm on your side here, bro.
Oh, okay. I thought you were arguing against me. I'm like, no, that's exactly the problem.
This time. Not this time.
Shield handles Marvel's cleanups. Does Shield do anything all that well, though?
Not really.
I'm just saying, if Shield was good at their job, we wouldn't have the Avengers.
So, when was it Frantic Search, when the art for Frantic Search from UMA came out, we got to see this rather bookish, intellectual looking dude with glasses, just rummaging through all of his books, and in his study you can see artifacts and books from all over the multiverse. And you've got the Artificer's Assistant, which is the bird like fluttering towards him with a little message.
Yep.
So the idea that I had was like, okay, well, he's clearly a planeswalker. And so I was like, okay, his name is Stuart. And his partner is oh god, what do we call him? Was it Chad? You remember the guy from all of the curses from that from last year or the year before?
Chad.
Was like
Curse
that's Chad.
Yeah.
That's Chad. So like Stuart and Chad are dating, and Stuart is actually the one who gets called in to clean up everything because he's really good at logisticating. And so like the story circle, like they know him and he comes in and he and Terry are like, okay, where do we have to go now? And Terry is like terrible at actually trying to manage anything. So he's the one that's constantly getting in trouble, and Stuart's the one having to bail him out of like a bar fight or, you know, a fight with wolves or whatever. So I like to think that like there's definitely some planeswalker group out there that's all about recovery and relief. And they just kind of, they don't actually say anything to anyone. They just sort of show up and they just help with things like constructing stuff. And it's probably like a mostly mono white team. Maybe there's a blue member, but they're all come in and just sort of help recover, like help heal people and build shelters and infrastructure.
And nobody knows their names because nobody ever asks them to do the fighting, because they don't want to do the fighting. They want to do the cleanup.
Yeah, they do cleanup.
Yeah.
They're all about building, not breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
Generals write history books, so you know what I'm saying. Not architects.
I kind of feel like Azor might have fit into that if he didn't already, you know, not have his spark anymore.
You mean if he wasn't already a psychopath?
Who, Azor? Oh, I guess actually, yeah, you're right. Whoa.
Why do you sound surprised? We're about to have a conversation together.
Because I liked white and blue too much to see his downsides. Come on.
You sound like Azor.
I mean, so the thing about both Azor and Dovin Bond that I do really like is the fact that they are really good at logisticating and they are really good at building things. Mm-hmm. Like we haven't really seen what, like it's been confirmed as of today that Dovin Bond is in the next set, and that's really exciting. But it makes me wonder, like, what did Nicol Bolas promise him in order to get him into this position? Because when we think about what Dovin Bond,
extra fingers.
True. It was like, come to this plane where we can get you a fifth finger.
I mean, the Simic will do it.
5-fingered Vidalkin instead of a 4-fingered Vidalkin.
The Simic will do it.
Yep.
Think of how much more paperwork you'll be able to file with that additional finger.
That's the funniest thing, because he would actually be like, oh, yes. Paperwork.
So much paperwork.
Like, what's that character from Brooklyn Nine-Nine? I forget her name, but that's what I think of when I think of the Azores. I think of her. I'll find it in a sec.
But
Nine-Nine.
But I think that unfortunately, what blue and white bring out in each other that's really not great is the fact that there's already a moral superiority brings to the table, and when you combine that with an intellectual superiority, that blue brings to the table as well, you end up with just a person who thinks they know everything and cannot be gainsaid.
Yeah, you end up with stasis players. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I play stasis.
I was about to say, those horrible stasis players. I didn't put that in an article recently.
So I have a question for you, Michelle. What would be like the ultimate bad sides of Golgari players? What's like what does black and green bring out that's bad in the Golgari?
Nothing. They recycle all the bad stuff.
Yeah, they're just recycling. They're just cleaning up the environment.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about, are you talking about within Color Pie or within like game design?
I was thinking more in terms of the lore of Ravnica, because we know that Vraska here is aligned with Nicol Bolas, but is she kind of like biding her time until she can overthrow Nicol Bolas or escape his like clutches, or is she actually on board? Because that's something that either I forgot or it wasn't super clear to me in the lore.
Okay, so the whole thing with Vraska and Bolus is that Vraska is part of the Okron Assassins, which is it's an assassins guild that's a subpart of like the Golgari, and they're really good at killing people effectively, quickly, for a very high price. So Vraska, as a Gorgon, has always been an incredibly downtrodden figure. She's seen as an outsider even within the Golgari. And so her exposure to the other guilds has always been as a victim. She was imprisoned by the Azorius at a very young age and then beaten to the point where she sparked. So there was that. So she is very much all about protecting her people. And that's kind of what that's like the best of what Black Green brings to the table. You have the community mindset of Green, and you have the possessiveness of Black. So you're basically ride or die in the Golgari, at least for Vraska. If you are her person, you are her person, and she will kill for you. And the same is expected in the other direction as well. Like, you are together, you are inextricably linked. So Bolus came to her with the offer of making her guild master, or guild leader of the Golgari, in exchange for going to pick up this thing on Ixalan. And so she is given the thaumatic compass. She goes to Ixalan. She finds the immortal sun, but she also finds Jace. And Jace, and like new Ixalan Jace, is like in possession finally of all his memories and has like deep empathy for other people, because that's a really great part of Blue that we tend to overlook. And so they make a date, but then Vraska realizes that if Bolus looks into her mind and sees that she's been in contact with Jace, she will put Jace in danger, and Bolus could kill the both of them. So she says to Jace, take out all of my memories of you. But when the time is right, bring them back to me, and I will become a double agent for you.
Ah. Okay,
so yeah. Yeah, something like that. And he's all like sad about it, and it's sad. And I really want them to go on a date.
So you ship Vraska, Jace?
Oh, I do. Actually, that ship is called the Belligerent.
Okay. I like it. I like these official names. That was the name
of her ship on Ixalan. But yeah, so when you're talking about like Vraska within that particular situation, she is taking up Bolus's offer because she wants to see a better future for the Golgari, who have up until very recently been treated very, very poorly. I mean, they're the trash people of Ravnica, you know, like they feed they feed people, but you just don't want to ask where it comes from.
Yeah.
You know.
It's somewhere between like Micro's Dirty Jobs and Soylent Green, somewhere in that kind of shady area. So,
but if the bad part about Black Green in terms of like what it can do is that Green and Black both respect the cyclical nature of life and death, and understand that death is just part of life, and that you should, exploit every part of that cycle to your advantage. It's one of the reasons why the Golgari have one of the fastest turnovers in terms of their guild masters. Gerard, I think, took over from like another couple, and then there was the Sisters of Stony.
Gerard took over from his sister.
Yeah, he took over from his sister, who then took over from like other. So it's
the Three Stone Sisters. Yep,
the Three Stone Sisters. Yeah. So there's a lot going on within the Golgari. People are always vying for the top. It's not always the most stable, but it's kind of understood that there's this cycle of leadership, and that you can't always rest easy because another person might be coming along anytime soon. But it's just part of the culture, and at the end of the day, Vraska just wants her people to be safe and to be respected.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. We're going to get a question from the chat right after I just make this comment. But it's kind of interesting if you think about a lot of the Bolas-aligned guilds. Well, really, I guess only two of them. But the Golgari and the Gruul share that kind of downtrodden background. The Gruul used to be the caretakers of the wild parts of the world that were outside the city limits, but since the city is most of the world and Silesian takes care of all the nature within the city, they kind of got pushed out of a job.
Yep.
So they had the same kind of bitter mentality that the Golgari would have. And then as for the Orzhov, they're just easily corruptible, I think. The Azorius Senate, I think, are, because of what we've seen of the Azorius in the past, I think they're corruptible if somebody promises them power to control things in their laws and in the way they think is the right way of doing things. And they may have genuinely good mentality of, if we make these rules and everybody does what the rules say, it'll be a better place. But the way they go about doing it and the way they've gone about doing it in the past are, you know, kind of basically like strip freedoms away so that you can't break the rules. And then the Izzet, I don't know quite how. I know Ral Zarek has something to do with it, but I don't know quite what they're gonna have promised to them, because Niv Mizzet is still around. So I'm guessing Niv Mizzet's just being given power and being told he might control all of Ravnica, which again that's his thing too. Like that's a character flaw, not necessarily a guild flaw. He's,
Niv Mizzet's been gone for a while, actually. Like, he hasn't been seen for a little while. Ral Zarek, that's why Ral Zarek is Viceroy. He's been running the day-to-day of the Izzet Lee for a long time now. What Ral Zarek wants is to lead the Izzet. Because the Izzet was founded by Niv Mizzet. He's I think the only one of the few original Powroons still around, like the people who actually signed the Guild Pact. I think him, Rakdos, and I think maybe one of the Orzhov dead people who are now a ghost.
Yeah, the original members of the council, maybe. Exactly.
So because Niv Mizzet has been away for a while, Ral, and the way that the Izzet is structured is it's like this whole ego trip around Niv Mizzet. And I can understand, you know, from Ral Zarek's perspective, why that can be stifling for creativity. I mean, if you're spending all of your time trying to build something, to like direct your creative energy towards something to please an incredibly intelligent and fickle and like impetuous dragon, that can be really, really, really frustrating. So I think at the ultimate, like at the end of the day, I think all of these individuals who are taking Bolas's offer are taking the road for power and control. Vraska wants power and control for her people, so that way they will not be downtrodden. Ral Zarek wants power, so that way he can wrest it away from Niv Mizzet, who's almost never there anyway, and is like up in his like nest thing somewhere in the sky doing something. I don't know, Firemind's research.
Looking into a really big mirror, thinking, "Damn, I look good."
Yeah, every time I see that, I just think of like Justin Timberlake's song, like, "It's I look in a mirror, my mirror's staring back at me." No. Or like an Adele thing, like "Hello from the other side."
Shadow did have a question. Shadowkeep read a question from chat because of her love of Orzhov, I'm sure. Says, so what do you think is happening in the Orzhov Guild in the next set, and what is Kaya doing?
Yeah.
So the last we saw of the Orzhov, we were looking at them from Tasa's perspective. So the way that the way that Ravnica works as a plane is that each plane has a fundamental characteristic to the way the magic on that plane works. Zendikar has wild magic that manifests in like the land literally getting up and walking around. Innistrad has, you know, this whole thing where people keep coming back from the dead. Amonkhet actually also had this thing where people came back from the dead, but it was a little bit different. And so every plane has a different way of expressing its magic. The way Ravnica handles itself is it's all about law magic. And Azor warped all of that into the Guild Pact when he first created it, that contract. And so because of that, anything that the Guild Pact says becomes law. So Teysa, being an advocate, aka a hotshot lawyer, was able to, she's like the Ally McBeal of her world, except like way better. Actually, no. No one ever cast Calista Flockhart as Teysa Karlov. Please don't. I'm thinking more like Julia Margulies, like from Five or something. But anyway, so she manipulated Jace, who was like in the middle of like drinking coffee or something, to change something within like a contract that she had with the Orzhov ghosts in order to the Obsidat in order to kind of help take control. And so she actually teamed up with Tajik from the Boros Legion to basically take them down, so she can assume control of the Orzhov. Okay, the tricky thing about the way the Orzhov has been run is that it's basically like the definition of the old boys club, because these are old boys that it'll just not die.
Yeah. Well, no, they did once.
It is like the living embodiment or the unliving embodiment of patriarchy. And so Teysa is like, she goes in and she wants to take them down, but because of the way that the laws were originally written and the everything else, her ghostly uncle Karlov is able to bring them down, like foil everything, and Teysa's been locked up for a long time. So with that, there's a lot to disrupt, pardon the Silicon Valley verbiage, within the Orzhov syndicate. It's a syndicate, it's a mafia. There's always going to be a way to get to the top. Kaya is really good at killing ghosts, as seen on Pollyanno.
Where she killed
during the events of Take the Crown. There's that one guy named Braga who kept blinking everything, and we were like, better. And then she went around and was like, yeah, he did. So, and it's implied that Marchesa like paid her to do it. So what's interesting about Kaya as a character from that story is that we know that she has a sense of ethics and a set of scruples and morals. So I can definitely see her taking issue with the way that the Orzhov has run themselves for millennia. And I can certainly see her being employed as an assassin or a mercenary to kind of come in, take care of the Obsidat in her own ghostly way, and either install herself or install Teysa as the head of the Orzhov. And so it remains to be seen whether or not Kaya herself will take control of the Orzhov. I've never really seen Kaya as the kind of person who would want to control an entire mafia. Like, I don't really see her being a huge godfather-esque or godmother-esque figure. But who knows? We only ever got that one story from Kaya. So if that does get expanded, we'll see. But yeah, I think she has a very, very clear idea of like, when you're dead, you should go.
Be dead, yeah.
You should be dead. Or if you're not dead, then you should. Yeah, there are certain rules that she has around like who can be dead, who can stay around, and whatnot.
I'm kind of curious how much of Kaya's backstory do we know?
Not too much. We don't really know what her home plane is, but she's always had the ability to kind of phase in and out of like the ghostly realms, the soul realms, and like the physical realm. And the story that she appeared in was actually quite interesting, because I think it was the first time that that Wizards, the story team, had brought in an outside consultant to make sure that the details of her, because she was a Black woman with natural hair, you want to be sure you get everything right, because this is the first Black woman planeswalker. We want to be sure that she is fully, she's flesh and blood, she's real, she's not just a token character.
Exactly. That's pretty cool. Little Hammy says that they are curious as to why Dalmaray would side with Bolas. How Dalmaray is going to unite the clans under his banner, knowing that Borborygmos was hinted at being near death around Dragon's Maze.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
So the Gruul are in an interesting place. They are red and green. So there is a lot of passion and zealotry for their community and for instinct and for survive, like basically going through gut. And in a plane that is in and of itself running a law magic, that can be kind of a little awkward, to say the least. The way I know that the Gruul clans work in terms of who gets to lead is you basically fight. So every couple of years or so, all of the clans, the Burning Tree clan, other clans of Fiashino, I think, not Fiashinos, those are the lizard people. The other clans get together, and they have basically kind of like Burning Man meets like MMA, like a giant fighting Burning Man Coachella like MMA thing, and it's just like a giant festival
into the pit,
you know, in like this ruin of a palace. No one knows whose palace this was. It's so freaking old, but it's been reclaimed by the Ravnican wilderness, and so they fight there. Anyone who wishes to challenge the leadership of Borborygmos or any of the other clan leads can do so at this time. So I can see how Domri Raid might be able to just take it down because he's a planeswalker, and also he's like a teenager now, and as we all are, that amount of angst really takes you to another level. Yeah, and also he recently lost his title of like youngest planeswalker, so he must be pretty upset. So in terms of what like Bolas could offer Domri Raid, I think again it kind of ties into like what other folks talked about earlier. The Gruul are very much oppressed. Like they don't command a lot of respect. They're seen as brutish. They're seen as crude and primitive. And that there's not a lot of respect to be had in those words and in that personality type or that stereotype, really. So I think Domri really wants to do good for his people. And I think that a lot of the folks are coming into this actually with good intentions. And they're willing to go along with someone's scheme. What is interesting to me is what the question I have for the story team is actually like, do the guild leaders know, like, do Bolas's people know that the other people who are also with Bolas are with Bolas? Like, does Domri Raid know that Kaya is also like in with Bolas? Does he know that Dovin Bon is? Although you can kind of tell Dovin Bon is because he's only got 4 fingers, and I don't know. I guess he could say like he lost 2 of them. Unless you think he's in a terrible mining accident or something. But like,
I think an interesting part to the fact of like these 5 basic proxies for the guilds is that they can all come together and claim that they have good intentions. Well, maybe not Dovin Bon. I don't know what his intentions are really in this one, because he seems more appointed by Bolas, kind of because of his own color affinity. But like, Ralzera can turn around and he can spout off what he thinks what about what he's doing he thinks is the right thing to do. Domri Raid can probably do the same. Kaya could probably do the same, and Vraska can then also do the same thing. They could basically say, we are taking the deal, we are part of this team for the good of our people. And who knows, maybe there is some kind of alliances there. I could see like Kaya and Vraska maybe having a general understanding of like, hey, we won't get in each other's way, but when we draw territory lines, when, you know, this uprising happens and we draw new territory lines, you're going to stay on your side and I'm going to stay on my side. You know what I mean? So it could be something like that. I don't know fully. My biggest question is, do they know it's Nicol Bolas? Because, like, do they understand they're working for Nicol Bolas or who he is? Because he's not an unknown character at this point. A lot of people have heard of Nicol Bolas in the multiverse, I would think.
It's established that both Ralzeric and Vraska know that they're working for Nicol Bolas.
Yeah.
Whether the other 3 do is yet to be determined. But getting to your earlier point about Dovin Bon and what he would want out of this, I mean, remember that the Gatewatch made him on his own plane of Kaladesh. So he's got an axe to grind. And what I find interesting, too, about the trailer that we saw drop today is that we saw a bunch of Thopters kind of going all across Ravnica. And it reminded me so much of Thopter Spy Network.
Yep.
So I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to, he's going to come in because he's like, oh, I see this opportunity to get some payback for what happened on my home plane. And, you know, those rapscallions making chaos out of a good thing. And I think he also likes the opportunity to be in a place that sees eye to eye with him on making and creating systems and rules and enforcing them really well. One of the things I remember about Dovin Bond when we first meet him at Jace's house on Ravnica is that when he walks in, he's like perfectly kind of neutral, and then he I don't know, sails over to a painting and then like straightens it and then and walks away, and that's just like it kind of perfectly encapsulates, I think, him as a person, where he's like not necessarily evil. I like, for example, he put Baral away on Kaladesh, right? He was like, what are you doing? Why are you going after these pyromancers? I told you to. You're in jail now.
Is it weird that whenever I think of Dovin Bond, I get like Sylar vibes from Heroes? I don't know if you watched Heroes.
Yeah, I've seen
Sylar.
Heroes.
Yeah, he reminds me so much of Sylar, where he doesn't really have a motive other than he likes the sheer fact of knowing how things work, and he wants to understand how everything ticks. So I don't know if I hope that WotC doesn't make it about vengeance, although I could see that. I feel like he'd probably have more in it to, hearing about Ravnica and how it was founded by Azor and how it's supposed to be a plane of law magic. I think that would be his goal, is to try to put Azorius back on top and to be the ruler of a very, lawful plane, seeing especially how that didn't work out for him so well on Kaladesh.
Yeah, I think that the new consulate led by like Pia Nalar and Ovia Pishiri, like I think that they put him out of a job pretty quickly. But
they're
so I guess
all
maybe
gonna see eye to eye with him.
No way.
So
No
maybe
way.
he was just like bouncing around somewhere, and then Nicol Bolas shows up like, "Hey, you're really good at filing paperwork. Would you like to come here?
Can I offer you a job?"
Yes.
I haven't had papers filed in eons. I died once I came back, and they wouldn't believe me because I didn't have a certificate that I had to file in triplicate. I don't even write. I'm a dragon.
I distinctly make people discard the things that they want to write on.
Yeah. Like, you know what? Get out of here.
Things.
Get rid of these
books
thoughts.
away. Yeah, get those books out of here.
So there are some people in the chat who are asking a very good question that I think a lot of people don't realize. So why is Ravnica so important? Why Ravnica specifically?
Does it come back to that? I don't know if it's been retconned.
What I said. Ravnica sells product.
No, there's actually
that's
a special...
why we keep revisiting. Well, I know there's actual lore reasons we keep revisiting Ravnica too, but in the end, Ravnica has been like one of the most popular planes for people to play. I mean, it's one of some of the best drafts, which limited is the biggest format for Magic, right?
Listen,
where they make their money is in limited, have been in Ravnica sets. So you know what? Ravnica makes Wizards money, so why wouldn't they go back to the plane? Even if it's just that Bolas tried to destroy it.
Are you claiming that Bolas runs Wizards of the Coast?
Yes.
Heard it here first. Conspiracy theory,
actually,
Phyrexian Walker.
Yeah, actually, what's his name? Nick Cox, the CEO of Wizards, is actually just Nicol Bolas. It's like, if you remember Kate Elliott's stories about Nicol Bolas being a pregnant woman. Turns out he's like, and then the pregnant woman like bursts open, and it's like Nicol Bolas. Yeah, that's actually the CEO. He just during big talks, he just explodes into Bolas.
We've just all gotten so used to it, we don't talk about it anymore. But there is actually a specifically, like, Ravnica is a unique setting in a couple of ways. One, the law magic, where we had the guild pack, where you could basically write something into law, which then became kind of into reality. But isn't there also a part that I think it was in the original Ravnica set, and I think we stopped talking about it? It has something to do with it being hard to find for planeswalkers.
No, it was, and I might be wrong on this. I totally admit that I could be wrong. Is it that Ravnica is kind of central into the multiverse, that it's kind of like a crossroads where if you're going from one plane to another, most of the time you'll kind of go through Ravnica in the Blind Eternity. Is that something like that, or has that been retconned, or is that never true and I'm just making stuff up?
What was the last option?
As far as I know, Ravnica is not the party of the multiverse. But I do think that within, so of course there's like the game design perspective is that Ravnica has guilds. It's one of the cleanest, like most fun places for players to return to, so you find your guild, and then there's really cool mechanics, and you get to pair colors together and then like fight other people, and it's very, very cool in that way. And also the urban setting is really fun too, because it reflects the competing interests of a real world city very, very well. With regards to the law, with regards to like why Nicol Bolas wants this to be the case, I actually think that you made a good point as to like the law magic. So obviously, like, here's what I think happened in like if we're gonna step back in the meta a little bit, in the writing room, people were like, okay, we're going back to Ravnica. We need to figure out a way to make this logical and work. Ravnica's all about law magic. We have this immortal sun made by this giant sphinx thing on this pirate dinosaur country, and we're gonna bring it to Ravnica. And because of the way that this works, it's so much aligned to law magic, the immortal sun will probably be at its strongest in a plane like that. That would be my guess. And so I think that there is because we can see like the various MacGuffins that Nicol Bolas has gained so far. Like he's got the planar portal. He's got he's got the bridge.
Yeah. He's got the 1,000-year storm now.
and he's got a giant army of dead people he can bring through the planar portal. And he's got the immortal sun. So, and we know that he's been wanting to regain his pre-mending power for a long time. He tried to do it by smashing Alara back together. And then he fought a Johnny, and that didn't work out so well. And so since then he's been like, curses, I will come back and become more powerful.
Johnny's like Samurai Jack, and Nicol Bolas is like Aku.
Yes.
Wow, you went deep for that one.
No, I told you, I make like these weird comparisons, and like when I compared Waluigi to Tybalt. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
I thought we were going to get through this whole hour without talking about that one.
No way. You kidding? That's why I wanted to be here. That was the #1 most important reason. No, I'm kidding.
So yeah, I think that Nicol Bolas has some way, like my theory is that he has a way of stripping away people's sparks, and or some way to write the law such that every planeswalker trapped on that plane, or somehow that it will fuel him and his big dragony bits, and I don't know, flow into his gem of becoming and make his horns even bigger.
Can he get multiple sparks?
Well, the thing is, like, we know it has been established that sparks are a transferable thing, and they can be contained within inanimate objects. For example, Teferi's spark was one that Joyra had for a while, right? And then she gave it back to him on Dominaria. Karn received his second spark from Venser.
Oh, from Venser, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, R.I.P. Oh, Venser.
He did his best.
It's like, but
Oh god.
Little Hammy here says his dragony bits. Now that is not the best mental image.
Listen here. This is a PG-13 stream.
I don't know. This is I'm just letting people know that things exist. I don't need to anyway. Well, moving on. Moving on. We're not going to go into the.
Yeah, this is not the Simic podcast.
So,
Bolas is a good guy. That's a stretch at best.
I'm waiting for someone to go hashtag Bolas did nothing wrong. But
hashtag not all boluses.
Oh god.
No, too soon.
Not all dragons are bad dragons. Have you seen Niv Mizzet?
Actually,
the problem is we haven't seen Niv Mizzet.
So I know this is kind of strange.
Dragon doesn't count.
I was gonna say this is kind of strange, but do we know what Firemind's research is? Because I saw someone theorizing that he's trying to create a like clone of himself because he sees all these other guild leaders kind of biting the dust, and he's like, okay, well, something's happening here. This is not normal for all this to be happening all at once, right? You know, sometimes a guild leader will die, but it's not like, you know, however many at one time. So is he trying to create an image of himself so that he can fake his own death, or is that kind of like baloney?
I think that the clone thing is the clone theory is a pretty sound one for now. I mean, we got quasi-duplicate in the set, but but I mean, like, you know, that promo of him looking at himself and wondering what's going on, I don't think that's a bad theory, but I am also willing to believe that he's not necessarily doing it to have a backup for him like Iron Man with his suits. I don't necessarily think that's the case. It could also just be like he's really vain. Like, it could just be like, I've tried dating for so long.
That's possible.
So you don't think that Niv Mizzet is the MTG equivalent of Emperor Palpatine, is just gonna have billions of clones running around just in case he dies once, and then there's another one, and then you kill the next one? It's like whack-a-mole, right? Why can't Niv Mizzet be the Emperor gosh, can't say his name now. Emperor Palpatine.
Well, Emperor Palpatine doesn't seem to be as smart as Nicol Bolas. Nicol Bolas, I mean, like, Niv Mizzet. No, I don't know. I'm sorry. And like the ranking, Palpatine is pretty far down for me. But yeah, Niv Mizzet, I think he's just, I think he does know that something weird is going on. I can definitely see him being vain enough to think that cloning him is going to be the solution to all of these problems.
Maybe he's like Littlefinger, like we were talking before the stream. He has all these intricate plans, and then he makes one little mistake, and it's like the worst possible mistake to make. And goodbye.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's we know that the book by Greg Weisman will be out, I think, like next April. So there's only one way to find out, and it's going to be through that. In the meantime, we've got the awesome Nikki Drayden picking slack and giving us some really good vignettes. So yeah.
Shadowkeeper asks, who is smarter, Niv Mizzet or Bolas?
Bolas.
Yeah. I think Bolas
unfortunately
is just older. I mean, you know, like Niv Mizzet's, you know, pretty old, but Nicol Bolas is.
Well, I mean, it defines smarter. I mean, I think Niv Mizzet is like book smart.
As you can see from the book in his first card, he had the book in his hand. He was reading it.
Yeah, well, Nicol Bolas is also book smart, but he is, I think, his strengths. I think his intelligence lies in his social and political acumen. But I also think that, I don't know, maybe Bolas is just smarter. I think he's also smart enough to know not to get too obsessed with one thing and to get distracted because it distracts from the greater plan, which is to get his powers back. Like, for example, he knows all about sailing. Like, he just dumped all of that knowledge into Vraska's head. Like, insta sailing, boop.
It's like the magic pirate downloaded.
Yes, you are now a pirate captain. You know what a damn. Well done.
So I'm going to do a quick hot take. I don't think Niv Mizzet's that smart in the first place.
I think he's smart. I think he's really intelligent. I think he's cunning. I mean, almost every dragon is cunning. Do I think that he is as politically savvy as other dragons? No.
I think he's. Yeah. I do agree, cunning and clever, but so from reading the original Ravnica stories, like I forget whether it was the first set or the second set, but when he goes to battle the Nephilim, and it basically starts whooping his ass. He flies away, and he's basically like, "Oh, I'm getting tired. You can finish this now, underlings." But everybody's basically like, "Are you running from this fight right now? Like, is that a thing you're doing right now?" Because I think the one goblin character was even like, "What are we doing? What, like, fire mind, big monster, go eat the damn thing." And Niv is like, "Nah, bro, I'm good." So I think he's. I feel like he's more clever and crafty, but almost in like a cowardly sense.
He's kind of lazy, is the thing.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is I mean, he basically built this entire guild to glorify and interest him.
Yeah.
And so he's incredibly vain. Every song is about him.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at their symbol. Their symbol is all just him.
On the other hand, the merchandising for the Izzet is the best. Like you go into these, it's like you can get like little toy Niv Mizzets, you can get like a little plush, you can get like a really cool poster. Well, yeah, it's all seen to.
It's much harder to do that with Golgari because you have to change out the leaders.
Well, no, that's not fair. We didn't have a really good mascot until we got Slimefoot. Everybody else was creepy. Then Slimefoot comes around. And he's the best thing. They are the best thing ever because they're adorable.
Pyreheart makes an interesting point here. They say Niv Mizzet is high on intelligence, low on wisdom, worse on charisma. What's your take on that?
I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty accurate. I think that Bolus has extremely high wisdom. But he's also like what? Chaotic evil? Not necessarily chaotic, maybe lawful.
I would say lawful.
He's not really lawful. Well, the thing is like he's got a good command of like laws, but he doesn't respect them.
Well, he respects his law.
Everything
is according to how he wants it.
Mm.
So he does things according to like his machinations.
He's definitely a more planning person than spontaneous in kind of a personality way. So I think that kind of translates more to lawful than to chaotic. But that just might be my limited understanding. Works with that.
Yeah, I can see a case for lawful evil for Bolus. I mean, he did go to Amonkhet and establish like an entire group of people. Religion around him.
That had a lot of like intricate structuring for like how to basically raise these kids, get them to train, get them to basically show who's the best by killing off all the weak people, and then even the weak people became useful, right? Like there was always nothing was wasted in Amonkhet. Everything always had a purpose. Even when you died, you then came back. Even if you were one of the little zombie things that just did like the servants, the manual labor. Yeah, the manual labor. And stuff.
Even if you were a cat, they made use of you. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
cuteness had to be done.
Now
they had to have cute cats.
Now I've got a question related to Elder Dragons because we can see how Nicol Bolas, he was kind of narcissistic in the way that he wanted people to worship him on Amonkhet, and obviously Niv Mizzet is too. Is being an Elder Dragon like closely related to like that self-image and trying to make as many people like, if not literally worship you, at least like figuratively worship you? Do you think that's connected to being an Elder Dragon? Maybe the Tarkir dragons might be a good
Not necessarily. For example, Chromium Rule was not super interested in having people follow him. He turned into a human named Ham for a while. Stop and keep an eye on Palladium Wars. So I think it depends a lot on the alignment of a lot of these dragons. I mean, if we're talking about Dominaria dragons, most of them are interested in ruling things, but that's mostly because they have their own reasons. Like, I don't know, Vivictus Asmadi was just kind of like I just kind of gray and I don't know, he's just weird. And then like Palladium Wars was like, hey, if I enslave these people, they will eat, and if not, I will eat them, and that is a perfect situation.
Let's just
win-win.
Let's
and
just
Arcady
be careful.
Sabbath is like, the more people I can get, the more butt fighting I can get. So it's like, this is perfect. Get out of here, Joran.
Shadowkeeper asked, is Bolus the Santa Claus of the multiverse? I think that's a pretty easy question to answer. Presence in form of fire, death, and control. Is Bolus the Santa Claus of the multiverse? Asks Shadowkeeper. Pretty easy question to answer.
I don't know what gifts you think you're getting from Bolas.
Fireheart says presence in form of fire, death, and control.
Yeah, that's about accurate. I mean, if Bolus came to you with a gift, I would see. The thing is, like, the best thing for anyone not to know. Because if Bolus notices you, it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
Because if he comes to you bringing a gift and you accept it, then you're in his debt. And in Bolus's clutches. Yeah.
Come on.
He now controls you, target permanent, and it's like, and now you have to do things for him because somehow the blender he got you has some kind of demonic contract related to it, and you're just like
the blender.
Well, crap.
That's the example you gave. The planar blender.
The planar blender. I tried using this on a Lara. It didn't go. Yeah. On the other hand, if he does notice you and you refuse the blender, and then he's like, "Oh, well, you don't need this blender. We're enemies now." And you're just like,
"Look, man, I don't use blenders, okay? I just buy my protein shake. I don't need to blend it. Calm down.
I'm a juicer.
I'm a juicer.
Not a blender."
Now I've got one question, and after that I'm done with the questions because I know I've been asking too many. But
and also because you're probably going to be fired.
Okay, yeah, that's another good reason.
Wow. Okay.
It's an inside joke, just so you don't feel totally.
We fire a hacker every day.
Multiple times.
Thankful for his job.
No, at least we try to limit it to one time a day. One time
try,
24-hour Palladium.
Try.
Yeah, sometimes we stack them up. I mean, the holidays are coming. We're not going to talk every day.
I did have to fire him in the middle of stream on Friday because he forgot the name of the podcast.
Whoa! That is such a misrepresentation. I was in the middle of thinking through my plays, and because of that, I said the wrong name, and then I knew it wasn't the right name, so I said the right name afterwards.
But you said the wrong name first.
Unless you're playing KCI, I don't think you should be forgetting your podcast.
We only do this every Monday.
Well, anyways, my question was this. When we were looking at the 5 planeswalkers that Bolas has kind of set up here, it's a little bit easier to tell, for the most part, what they're offering Nicol Bolas, and it's probably even easier to see what Nicol Bolas is offering them. But of the ones that I see, I'm kind of curious to think, to ask, what's your position on Domri Raid? What do you think that Domri Raid offers Nicol Bolas? Because everywhere else, you can see, okay, Kaya can get rid of the Obsidat, which you've mentioned is like one of the longest living rulers of a guild, so that's good to get them out of the way for Nicol Bolas's plans. You can see Vraska, he has someone who's in charge of the food. If you can control the food, you can control the people. You can see that with every one of the different guilds. Raul Zarek, obviously, he has the 1,000-Year Storm. What do you think Domri Raid offers Nicol Bolas? And that's my final question.
Do either of you read Terry Pratchett?
Yeah.
I don't, but
so there's a city called Ankh-Morpork.
Oh yeah.
And the way that city is run, that city's fire guild, like there used to be a fire brigade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the fire brigade was disbanded because suddenly, like, if you didn't pay them insurance, they would walk around and look at your building and say like, this is a really flammable building. It's a shame if something were to happen to it. So the idea behind that analogy is that I think what Domri Raid and the Gruul offer, they can offer violence and chaos and destruction. They offer basically a complete tear down of every institution for
that stands in his way.
Yeah, that stands in his way, and it's a really great way of subduing a lot of people if people are scared of what's going on and they're seeing everything being torn down, and the person who can make it stop is in the pocket of everybody else, then I think that's a pretty easy way of going about it. But I think that the Gruul do have a lot of rage and a lot of incentive to just riot, and so I think that's what they bring to the table. It's basically the threat of violence, because you could go ahead.
Little Hammy also just added to the chat, and I agree with them, is that they also just have some of the beefiest creatures around. I mean, if they're already angry, so that's a bonus. But if you can convince the biggest, baddest beast on the planet to work for you, that's a plus. That's a big thing in it of itself. Yeah. And now they're angry at everybody else. What's up?
Yeah.
said every gangster needs some muscle, right?
Yeah, you got to have your enforcers, and they want to do it. So
they
don't
enjoy
even take
the act.
They don't even take much convincing. Hey, you guys are big and angry, but you always seem to get beat. What if I helped you get big and angry at these people you want to get big and angry at? Would you do it? Who's gonna say no?
It's like, I know you guys are angry. Would you want some extra firepower? Or wink, wink.
Who's gonna say no?
Give you a blender. Wink.
I mean,
Bullis just goes to the rules like an arms dealer. Like, hey, you already have all this going for you. What if I give you a bazooka on top of it?
I mean, it is kind of eerily similar to what we're seeing, like with Saudi Arabia and Iran, in terms of like their. I don't know if you watch like if you're familiar at all with Middle Eastern politics, but they've been in a weird. Saudi Arabia and Iran have been in a very war by proxy situation for the past 2 decades, and they've both been like arming folks in Yemen and Iraq before everything fell down back in 2003. But they were both fueling and giving like arms and supplies and equipment to opposing like factions within these countries. And that's basically kind of what we're seeing here with Nicol Bolas and these guilds, right? Like he's offering each of them a way to meet their own goals and their own ends, and he's giving them the firepower and the political means in order to do it. So what is interesting too is that Nicol Bolas is, by doing this and giving these individuals like separate plans for power, that he's actually like dividing all of these guilds, right? The whole point of the guild pact is to bring all the guilds together because we're hashtag better together.
To take care of Ravnica. They each have a part to facilitate the care of the whole world that they live in.
Precisely. And, you know, like, I think we all agree, like, some guilds have had the short end of the stick for way too long, and it's bred discontent. And with Jace just, like,
Not
I don't know, like, just traveling around the world, solving other people's problems and not his own planes, that's a problem. And now we've got Lavinia looking like some kind of renegade on the loose, hiding in a warehouse, probably in Precinct 6.
Speaking of which, her card's on the screen. Hey.
Yeah.
I like Lavinia.
The new one? I hate it.
What? Oh, never mind.
Don't you ask me why.
I think flavor-wise and from like a story perspective, she's amazing. Just kind of everything. Yeah.
We were talking, the EDH Rec guys and I were all having a conversation. It's like, you pay too much for a spell? Go to jail. You don't pay enough for a spell? Go to jail. You don't play Magic the way I say? Go to jail. Did you just touch that card? Go to jail. It's my card. I don't care. Get out of here.
I want to play her in
everywhere.
Brawl, honestly.
I bet you do, because you and my wife are terrible Stacks players.
I don't even like Stacks. What are you're misrepresenting my brand here.
Do you like Lavinia?
I like Lavinia, yeah.
Stacks player.
What?
Can't you just let me have my fun and play my spells for nothing? Why can't you let me have my value?
Why can't I let you cheat? Why can't I let you break the law? Is this what you're asking? Is this what you're asking? Why can't I let you do what's illegal?
It's in the rules of Magic. If it's in the rules
of
Magic,
it's not legal. In my rules. That's the important part.
Oh, yeah. That sounds very Azorius. They don't follow our rules. Let's lock everybody's freedoms down. Next thing you know, Daniel will be doing her Selesnya hive mind nonsense. For those of you who don't know, the Selesnya were the bad guys of one of the Ravnica stories where they basically did want to try to do like a hive mind thing on Ravnica. Short, very summarized, but that's the overall concept.
I would love to see a hive mind plane, honestly.
No.
That'd be so cool.
What are you talking about? We had slivers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, slivers, they're not like they're a hive mind, but they're not like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not like sentient, like planeswalkingable creatures. You know, they can't planeswalk, can they?
Not yet.
Oh God! Please, first of all, stop it, you.
Not yet. I mean,
their papa's dead too, right? So,
for now.
They're
we'll slivers, so they just keep getting better. Sliver Planeswalker when? Come on, guys. Why would you?
I think after we can do planeswalking after we do sentience. That I think would be super cool. Like sentient planeswalkers that you could have, like not sentient slivers that you could have a conversation with. They could tell you. They can all respond to you in general. They can make an entire stadium filled with redheads. I mean, whatever you wanted to do.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
That was not a Rick and Morty reference. No.
Yeah.
Yes. So when I was over the summer when I was at GP Vegas, I got to play in a D&D campaign one shot with Ruben and Ashlyn and Tabby Toeclaws and Cameron. It was really cool. I got to play Shauna. We were the weather crew.
I remember this.
Yeah, and it was really cool because we got to ally with a bunch of slivers. It was very cool, and we got to talk to them.
Cool. That's pretty cool.
Turns out they were nice, very nice creatures, and they went away and they lived happily ever after. And then life continued, and it was great.
Once they become sentient, I'm telling you, they'll be awesome allies. You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They'll talk to you while they kill you. Yeah. While they overrun you and evolve and get all these abilities and make it impossible to ever do anything ever again.
This is the sound of a hater. This is the sound of a hater.
I'm not hating. You're hating. Shut up.
Right, on that note.
On that note, we are going to do one final question, and it's going to be an important one because we here at Praetor Magic are mostly Commander players. There's a few Pauper players. There's a few Modern players. I play a little bit of Arena when it doesn't irritate me to the point where I want to throw the computer across the room.
Don't bring it up. Don't bring it up.
I don't want to bring it up. My God. I played a little bit today and it was terrible. So, Michelle, I'm going to ask you the most important question on this whole podcast.
Okay.
Favorite commander?
It's like asking
you can't pick one.
Child.
Yeah.
I can pick one. Easy. I already know it.
Oh, that's so hard. I have to choose between power and... okay.
If you could only play one commander for the rest of your life, which one would you be least upset with?
Hold on. No.
That's the way
I'm not asking for you to make her like hate the game. Like, calm down.
No. That's the way in my mind. That's how I would answer that question because there is one commander that I would be the least upset. That being my only deck I could ever play.
I would probably have to go with my Yahenni Mono Black Prison deck.
Oh, see, you don't be playing white and black to go prison or stacks. See,
because I'm a terrible person, and it's a really I play Contamination and Oppression and Winter Orb and Static Orb.
Jesus,
you lost when you got to the orb part.
Never mind. Yeah. I didn't want to ask. Now I need. I
never claimed to be a role model. Like,
now I need a shower or something. I was Me and Frexine were about to like be happy, you know, as another player who enjoyed the finer things in life and, you know, Black Magic, but
is that a Natalie Portman reference?
Yeah, that is a Natalie Portman reference.
Yes, I got it.
From the rap, yes.
From with her rap with Lonely Island, awesome.
But I mean my second favorite is actually Hapatra.
Okay.
But I do play stacks in that. Because I'm a terrible person.
She's kind of a little built-in sexy in and of herself. So is Yahenni. They're both commanders kind of just... It's built in that you're going to make everybody's life a little bit miserable. Unless you don't run it, like, well at all.
Yeah, no, I tend to really love Hapatra because the build that I have is very flexible. So I've said this before on a bunch of other forums, but like when it comes to EDH, I love playing basically like a children's television villain. I'm just like, you know, I love like being the Ruby Repulsa coming out of the moon, just like, yeah, like I have returned. And, you know, I really don't like playing oppressive decks all that much. Like Yahenni is like my biggest gun. So I'll bring Yahenni in when I'm just like, I'm either really unhappy or everyone's just like, oh, we're playing our tier 1 decks. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy decks that are versatile and have accrue value over time. So Hapatra is great with tokens. Geese and Geralf I love because of the Graveyard Recursion and just that zombie tribal, just bringing that back and over again. And I love Aminatu because she's just fun. Aminatu is just hilarious. I've ultimated her various times, and it's always been like
that ultimate seems so strange.
So it's really hard to guess. Like when you read it the first time, you're like, how do I when am I ever gonna want to use this ability? The first game I played with, so every time the Commander precons come out, my wife and I, we buy them all, and then we get our friends together and we play them just as precons, and we try to switch them out so everybody has a chance to play each deck that they want. I played Aminato first, even though I really wanted to play the Jund deck the most. But I played Aminato first. It got down to me and the Izzet player, who just started making bunches of tokens, getting all this stuff. And then I realized at one point, I'm like, wait a minute. They've left Aminato alone to basically go after my life total. Aminato can ult. So I ulted, switch our boards, and he basically was like, yeah, I just lost. Like, I have nothing. I don't know what I do. Between what's in my hand and what now the fields are, because I had next to nothing. Now he has next to nothing, and I have all this stuff. He's like, yeah, I think I just lost. I'm like, yeah. I bet you did.
Yeah, I was playing a game with AE, my husband, Doug, and Bob, who was also on the Lorgoyfs. AE and Bob were both on the Lorgoyfs, and I ulted her and had everybody pass their permanents to the left. AE was on my right, and he was playing sea monsters, basically, and he was like, in like a fit of pique, like just killed all of them so that I wouldn't have them. And I had like wrathed the board earlier, and somehow he phased out all of his sea creatures and he phased them back in, and I was like, and now they're mine. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm okay with you having nothing, as long as we all have nothing, except that I have Aminato. So this works out pretty well.
All have nothing together.
But what's great with Aminato is ultimating Venser, and then just Venser with then there's also Felidar Guardian, Aminato, and Velith Nightclad, which is just great.
You are a awful person.
I try. It's a lot of fun.
But all right, Hacker, you had your last question?
Yeah, I had my last question already done.
Rexon, do you have any final thoughts or questions?
No, not really.
You were the quietest person, but I don't think you're much of a story person. I think you just want to kill people on turn 6.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. I support that.
Hey, sometimes
I like one of two things. I either like that or I like playing Muldrotha Constrictor and just making everybody miserable until everyone eventually dies.
Like eking out the game?
Fine with that style too.
Okay. As long as you're winning, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I'm having fun and everybody else isn't, you know? In that way, I could be a stacks player, but I just never have gotten behind it.
So you're staxing the amount of fun you can have.
Yeah.
Okay. So on that note,
kind of stacks Muldrotha, right? Just keep bringing all that stuff back, making everybody else have no stuff. I mean, they can play with the stuff they get to keep, but they don't get to keep much.
Frixian, it's way too late at night. I'm gonna have nightmares if you keep talking about that.
On that note, it has been a fun hour. Michelle, thank you so much for coming out and talking with us.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Hopefully, in the future, we'll have you back again. Just rotate guests in every once in a while. Of course, you are all over social media, so if you want to go and plug all your stuff, go right ahead.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at BalefireStrix. That's BALEFIRESTIRX. You can also find my podcast, The Lorgoyfs, at Lorgoyfs. And I also write for Card Kingdom, so you can find like some of my articles on their blog. I also write for the I guess kind of fanficky, but not quite, like a parody newsletter of the multiverse called the Felidar Guardian, and we should have a new issue out this week. That's the holiday edition. So all these great stories about what to do if you're a planeswalker for the holidays.
All right. And then, of course, Hacker, you have a bunch of resources in your own social media, so if you want to go ahead.
Yeah, so tappedout.net/users/magicalhacker. That's where you can find all my Commander resource staple lists. I'm trying to get those updated right now. For some reason, I can't update my profile, so just be patient with that. Thanks. I am now doing streaming on Twitch, twitch.tv/magical_hacker. I've got Twitter, magical__hacker. I had to use 2 underscores because the one with 1 is already taken. I also have my YouTube, which is Magical Hacker MTG is the name of the channel. You can find me by searching up the Blood Hall. I actually have a brand new show coming out tomorrow. I'm not going to talk a lot about it, but I can say it's about sleeper cards. So I'm going to give a little hint like that. It's just tomorrow. You'll see it tomorrow. And that's it. Tapped Out, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Discord. Discord, that's more your thing though, Seth. What's the Discord for this place?
The link's going to be down below because it's not like a discord.gg/PraetorMagic. They decided not to have easy links. So you can find that link in the description down below and also below the stream for those of you who are watching live. You can follow us on youtube.com/PraetorMagic, twitch.tv/PraetorMagic. We stream every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Monday is, of course, our live podcast where we do these. These will get uploaded on YouTube, Libsyn, and Spotify every Thursday, typically around 11 a.m. And you can follow us on twitter.com/PraetorMagic. So if everybody's good to go, I think that's all we got. We'll see you guys next.
One person, Seth.
What
about Phyrexian Walker? Where can I find him online?
Don't.
Nowhere. Set the Discord.
Just don't do it.
I'm on the Discord all the time.
That's why you need to join the Discord.
But I'm the hidden
to stacks your
fun.
No
social media.
All right.
Hot 3DH win streak right now. I'm up to 10 games in a row. Keeping it rolling.
Oh, are we streaming? Yeah, we're streaming this Wednesday and Friday. Are you on either of those?
Not currently. I don't think I can.
But
Lots of Christmas stuff going on, holiday stuff, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I don't think I'm going to be able to stream on Friday. But of course, until we see you guys next time, quick note for everybody. This is the last Praetor Reflections of the Council for the year. We will start up again I think, second Monday of the year.
Second Monday
basically,
of the year.
Everybody's taking the holidays off. We all got families to see and gifts to open and hopefully gifts to give. So until next time, guys, see y'all. Peace.
All right. Bye.
Bye.